Cool. So, who here has heard of the Tableau Foundation? Any hands at all? Okay, 1, 2, or 3. So, my aim of this talk is to, by the end of it, have at least one of you, would be nice, if not more, to come over and speak to me about signing up for the Tableau Foundation. So I'm here to talk on behalf of the data school and my data school group about how we work with Connect to Help to improve their analytics culture. I'm going to talk about the challenges that myself and my team faced when working with Connect to Help, and I'm also going to talk about the challenges that they faced themselves with the data and what they were working with. I'm also going to talk about the analytical goals that they had, how they saw analytics helping them as a charity deliver their business goals. And then within all of this, I'm going to talk about how we, the analytics community, can go out there and help charities achieve these business goals. So I'm going to start off by introducing myself. So my name's Ben Moss, I'm 25 years old, I'm male. I'm originally from Leicestershire, and I now live and work in London and have done for the previous 14 months. I have a background in sports analytics, particularly football and tennis, and I've also worked in healthcare analytics as a clinical audit assistant for the NHS. And I now work for Alteryx and Tableau partner, the Information Lab, as part of their data school. So I'm just going to break out completely off my slide pattern here and discuss what the data school is. So the data school is essentially a 2-year analytics training program. You spend 4 months doing very intensive work in a small room with experts in the field of analytics, and you learn about the softwares and the data management and the data visualization part, and then you go on 3 6-month industry placements with blue chip clients. In total, the Information Lab in the UK is around 60 members of staff. So first things first, I want to talk about this and what this picture represents. So this trophy here is one that we won for the Alteryx for Good Award. Now the Alteryx for Good Award is simply the best charitable piece of work that Alteryx and the Alteryx community acknowledge. So this trophy actually signifies a $15,000 cash donation to a charity of our choice. It signifies what 8 people can achieve in just a single week through working and being driven, being stuck in a room, working on an analytics project. And it also signifies what we as an analytics community can achieve if we get involved and help these charities with their analytics. So Connect to Help aren't the only charitable organisation the information has worked with over the past few years. We've actually worked with every single NGO on this board. So that includes the likes of UNICEF, Prostate Cancer UK and Greenpeace. And let me just remind you of the size of the organisation again. We're just 60 people, so we're not very large. So let's just imagine for 1 second what we could do if we activated just 0.1% of the community to go out there and help charitable organisations with their analytics. I mean, there's huge potential. So how did ourselves and Connect to Help meet? So surprisingly for this day and age, it wasn't actually through Tinder. It was through a program called the Tableau Foundation, which is essentially Tinder for analytics analytics people, and charitable organisations. Analysts register like ourselves, charities register, they get matched together, they form a relationship, and then output is a data visualisation at the end of a project. So this work is actually a piece done by my colleague Nico Cerrone. It's done using Tableau, and it was done for the Digital Humanitarian Network. Essentially, it's been built with the purpose of helping key stakeholders in the aftermath of serious humanitarian disasters, such as earthquakes and stuff like that. And it's already been used by the UN in their response to the Hurricane Matthew. So the Tableau Foundation isn't actually the only way that you can get involved and help organisations. There's also volunteermatch.org, and there's also the Alteryx for Good, and also DataKind. So speak to them. But I'm going to go back to the journey and how we helped Connect to Help. So it started out with a brief. So on the day one of the project, we sat down with Anne Hartman, who was the Director of Analytics at Connect to Help. She discussed firstly she introduced the charity. She also introduced where they wanted to go as a charity, and then she also, within this, talks about how analytics will help them achieve their goals. So I'll start with the who. So Connect to Help are a charitable organisation that help people within their local community being India. They do this by providing a live service catalogue of services within that area. So for instance, open hospital beds or free shelter beds or something like this. And they had a hotline which people could ring if they were in need, and they would then create the link between the service and the person in need. And on the other side, of course, they want to develop this catalogue, so it meant they had to communicate with the public to see how they could help with it. From ourselves, they actually didn't want that much. They just wanted us to help them clean up their ETL process. But they did see how important this ETL process was in terms of achieving everything in the wider picture. And that wider picture was to drive analytics into decision making in every single facet of the organisation. From optimising their call centre staffing, to communicating with the public what services were needed. But one thing you can tell for sure at the time of the call was that Anne was one of the most enthusiastic people that I've met in terms of realising how analytics can help their company. So what challenges did Connect to Help actually face? Well, the first thing first was it was a lot of manual effort to even get hold of the data. They had someone that wasn't even involved in the charity that owned the database and ran the database. So the people in the call centre were making the calls, logging it in the data entry system, and this would get passed out of Connect to Help completely to this, it's called the refer database. And then if Connect to Help wanted any data out of this, they would contact the database admin within this external company, who would then manually query the database and send the data back to Connect to Help. So it was a slow process. And the second problem was this. It was, of course, with the data, as all problems are. It wasn't necessarily the size of the data, it wasn't the structure of the data, and it wasn't that they didn't know how the data could be used to answer the business questions that they had. It was this. It was very early on when they were building the data entry system, someone had advised them to use free text fields, which meant a whole load of nonsense had been created. Their staff had found hundreds of different ways to categorise even the most basic of fields. So why is this an issue? Well, it's obvious it's because the data's messy, but what's the cause? Well, the cause is that analytics was never designed as the primary focus for them, and it's also the same in many businesses. It was when data was first sort of started to be kept, it was for governance purposes. It was for the purposes of if someone ever came back at them with a complaint or something, then they could pull up the data and return it to them. It was never meant to build a simple bar chart or know the disparity of our customers, for instance. So how did we fix it? So we actually used Alteryx to fix it. So we used Alteryx to connect live into the refer database that they had. We used Alteryx to manipulate these false values and turn them into their actual values with a series of lookup tables. We would then, at the same time, if any new incorrect values came in, we would then throw them out and say, hey, something needs to be done here. And then the final part of the loop was we outputted a series of tables to their MySQL database, which they could then connect live into Tableau to produce a series of data visualizations. And we also made it pretty clear that they should stop using free text. And as a bonus for Connect to Help, we also created 8 visualizations, one for every member of the team, which showed Anne and allowed her to show her team how analytics could help drive decision making in their organisation. So this one's by my colleague Simona Lafredo, which looks at the volumes of calls over time. It's a bit covered up by this volume thing. But essentially you can see that they need to staff their hours during the peak sort of standard day times. But there's actually, the calls are actually really low behind here, which you've got to. And then they're also they're not completely low at nights, they also need to keep staff in late in the evening. And then this one's designed by myself, which is designed as a public-facing dashboard and allows the public to query their specific area, their zip code, and see what the top 5 unmet needs were in their area. So they could then call up and offer help and support. And this led to a very delighted Anne Hartman. And it's actually a relationship that we still manage to this day in our bid to help Connect to Help continue to reach their goals. So before I finish, I just want to talk about one more way in which we can get involved, and that's by forming through indirect methods such as blogging, tweeting, and contributing to community forums for software platforms. And the reason because of this is quite simple. Charities are very similar to us in the way they look to problem solve. They Google stuff, they look for inspiration, and they also look to see the future of where the analytics space is going. And I know this because UNICEF actually got in touch with me and told me how fantastic one of my blogs was, and I now work with them as a Tableau consultant. So my takeaways from this presentation are quite simple. I want you to understand that the challenges that charities face in terms of data analysis are very similar to the challenges that we face in our normal business roles. There's a lack of data quality, there's a lack of data availability, the data's messy, and they also don't know the best way to communicate that information. And that's why we're so important as experts in the field. We can go into these organisations and help them. And I also wanted to let you know how easy it is to get involved, either through the Tableau Foundation, through Volunteer Match, or by blogging and tweeting and getting quality content out onto the web. That's